Bore da, good morning. This morning's assembly is all about going back to friends.
Talk to the person next to you. If you could have anyone in the world over for dinner and then they would become your friend for life, who would it be?
Friends are different than our classmates or our family because we choose who our friends are and they will choose us. It's really good for us to have friends that we can have fun with, but we also need friends that are going to support us no matter what. So a good friend will encourage us, they will support us, and they'll make us feel safe. Friends should not put you down, make fun of you, or put you in danger and make you feel unsafe. We may not get on with everyone, and that's okay. We can't choose how we feel, but we can choose how we act. So if there's someone in your class that you just don't get on with, it's important that we're not nasty to that person. And we'll make a lot of different friends during our life. Some of them that will be friends with us because of an after-school club or just for a summer, and some will be lifelong friends that we have forever. It's natural for some of our friendships to drift apart over time, but friendships are normally best when they aren't forced. You might not have the same interests anymore, or you might find other friends somewhere else. But it is important that we are kind and accepting of everyone, whether they are our friend or not. And we never know, we may meet someone down the line who we just don't think we can be friends with, but then it turns out they become our best friend.
In the early part of World War II, the British were over fighting in Norway to help free it from the Nazis. On one occasion, two planes came together in a ferocious fight. Little did they know that in two of these planes, who were enemies at the time, two of them would become lifelong friends. On this occasion there were 3 British fighter planes and 1 German bomber. Obviously there were too many planes for the German to fight off, so it was shot down over the mountains and crash landed near a lake. A few minutes later, one of the British fighters had engine problems and was forced to make a crash landing on that very same lake. It was spring 1940 in the remote mountains of Norway. Both crew from the British plane had survived the crash landing, and they made their way in the snow to find an abandoned cabin where they took shelter. A few minutes later than they arrived, 3 men came walking through the snow. These were the 3 that survived the bomber crash from the Germans, and they were not happy. Eventually they came to an agreement. The Germans would keep the cabin, and the 2 British airmen would carry on walking in the snow until they found somewhere else to take shelter for the night. The 2 British airmen eventually found an abandoned holiday resort town and broke into one of the hotels to spend the night. In the morning, the 3 German airmen showed up at their hotel they were staying at. Rather than kill one another, they all decided that they would work together to survive. No one from either side knew where they were in this Norwegian wasteland, and so they had to stay together and work together to survive the harsh conditions. Sometime later, a Norwegian ski patrol came by. The Germans were captured, and the 2 British airmen managed to convince the Norwegians that they were allies, and eventually they made their way back to England, and they both returned to service shortly after. 2 of the men, one from each side, survived the war, and they later went on to write books about their experiences from being in prisoner camps and, of course, their experience in Norway. Decades later, they got in contact by phone, and from then on across the years they met several times, in their hometowns of Munich and London. They both returned to the hotel in 1974, where they had shared breakfast together. These 2 men, who were meant to be lifelong enemies, actually became lifelong friends through this experience. So the moral of the story is, you never know where your next best friend may come from.
And here's our word of the week from the book of Proverbs in the Bible, and it says, "A friend loves at all times."